Jim, you know my friend Trixie? Her uncle was just diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and now he won't even touch a piece of fruit. Does sugar really cause diabetes?
Well, first of all, your friend's uncle's not alone. About 66% of the U.S. population today is either diabetic or headed toward diabetes. So it's become really the norm. And it is a common misconception that sugar causes type 2 diabetes, which is just not true. The root cause of type 2 diabetes is actually a condition called insulin resistance. And insulin resistance comes when we have too much fat built up in our muscle and liver cells. So I think an easy way to explain it is to think about this kitchen sink, right? So imagine that you came into the kitchen this morning and your drain was clogging and left the water running.
Okay.
And the water's now on the floor. So how do you fix that problem? Do you get a mop out, mop up the water? You might need 2 mops, you might need 3 mops. Well, guess what? When you come back later today or tomorrow, you got to get the mops back out, right? Because you haven't really fixed the problem. Because the problem's not the water, it's the clogged drain and the water's on. Well, that's exactly how most doctors treat type 2 diabetes, right? We get out a metformin mop, and then we add a Januvia mop, and then we add an insulin mop. We mop up all the sugar, we put our mops away, but guess what? We got to get them back out. So the real problem is the clogged drain and the water. So what's clogging the drain? It's fat in the muscle and liver cells, primarily the muscle cells. The water is the processed sugar and the ultra-processed foods, the white flour, edible oils, which is driving the need for insulin. So that is why more of a whole plant-forward, high-fiber, low-fat diet is one of the few diets that's ever been shown to prevent, treat, and even reverse type 2 diabetes. In fact, I would go so far to say that type 2 diabetes isn't even a chronic disease. It is a normal physiologic response to an abnormal behavior. We as human beings did not evolve to sit behind a computer all day and eat Krispy Kreme donuts.
Oh, well, okay, so you're right about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
So should people with diabetes worry about carbohydrates?
Right, that's a great question. And again, I think it gets to one of the roots of the problems in the way we think about food today. And the problem is we don't think about food.
Yeah.
We think about what food's made out of. We worry about carbohydrates and fats and protein, nutritional reduction, and reduce food down to its components. And that leads to some crazy ideas. 30 years ago, we worshiped carbs and we demonized fat. That was the era of like Snackwell's cookies, right? It was like free food. Well, today, we're demonizing carbs and worshiping protein, right? But carbs aren't the problem. It's the package the carbs come in. So think about this apple here. So small apple has maybe 100 calories, right? And it's about 25 grams of carbs. There's about 4 calories per gram of carbohydrate. But where are the carbs at? Well, they're in the apple, right? And when we eat this apple, our body literally has to burn a few calories to digest the apple, the soluble fiber in the apple, slow this progression through our digestive tract. We slowly absorb the sugar, so there's no big insulin spikes. That's a concept called glycemic index or glycemic load. That's a propensity of a given food to spike insulin levels. Apples have a low glycemic index. The soluble fiber feeds healthy gut bacteria downstream. All is good, right? Apple a day keeps the doctor away, right? Now, we take that same apple, right, and we squeeze out and put it in a glass, okay? Well, first of all, 1 cup of apple juice is the equivalent of about 3 apples. And guess what? If you think about the package, what's missing between these two? It's fiber, right? So when we drink this apple, our body has to do no work whatsoever.
Right there, yeah.
The sugar is absorbed right out of the upper part of our digestive tract. Our sugar levels spike, our insulin levels spike, right? So clearly it's not the carbs that are the problem, because these are the same carbs, the same calories. It's the package the carbs come in, right? The apple versus the apple juice.
So, okay, so what you're saying is that the fiber keeps the insulin from spiking.
Right, it keeps the sugars from spiking, which triggers the
sorry,
insulin
the
spike.
sugars from
That's
spiking.
exactly right.
That's right,
That's
yeah.
exactly right. Exactly
Oh
right.
my gosh, I love that.
Right.
All right, so what about type 1 diabetes?
Well, so type 1 diabetes is a completely different kind of diabetes. It only makes up a few percent of diabetics in the United States. However, so it's an autoimmune disease, and it's caused we develop antibodies against the cells in our pancreas that make insulin, and so our pancreas loses the ability to make insulin. So we become insulin dependent, typically at a young age. However, most type 1 diabetics have what I call double diabetes, right? So they've become insulin resistant on top of their type 1 diabetes, because if you think about it, it doesn't matter where the insulin comes from. If you're injecting it or your pancreas is making it, when you're resistant to insulin, you need more insulin.
Right.
And if you're injecting insulin, insulin is a growth factor. It can cause weight gain. It predisposes you to low blood sugars, hypoglycemia, which is very dangerous because our brains have to rely on our blood glucose to survive, to work. And when our sugar levels drop low, that can actually cause damage to our brain cells, over time. So, what's crazy is I had the opportunity to work on a retreat with my friends from Mastering Diabetes. And we saw type 1 diabetics that in 3 days, eating literally eating mangoes and fruit, maybe a few lentils, maybe some squash, some green leafy vegetables, cut their insulin dose in half in 2 or 3 days.
Oh my
because
gosh.
they were insulin resistant, they had double diabetes, and they reversed the insulin resistance part of their diabetes.
So even people who have type 1 diabetes can benefit.
Oh, most definitely.
By adding more fiber.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Or lower fat and higher
No,
fiber.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. So, Caryn, question for you.
Yeah.
We know that a low-fat, high-fiber, plant-forward diet is the optimum diet to help, again, prevent, treat, reverse diabetes. What would that look like on your plate?
I think I can whip something up for you, and it is even going to include some fruit.
All right. Can't wait.
Yep, let's get cooking. All right, I believe you wanted something high in fiber, low in fat, and I promised fruit, right?
You got it.
Let's get after it.
All right.
We've got a hot pot. I'm going to turn it on. We're going to heat up our pot.
Right.
And add in some cauliflower.
All right.
Now, just for reference, what we're doing here is my curried chickpeas and arugula.
Go. Let's do it.
Curried chickpeas, cauliflower and arugula.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to start to heat up our cauliflower, which we have cut down in just 2 bite-sized little florets.
Right.
And then curry, you can already smell.
Oh, I love the curry.
I know, you do. All right, so what we're going to do is we're adding this pretty early in the process because we want the curry to toast a little bit, and it just becomes so aromatic, and I can already smell it.
It's amazing.
So great. So that, and this just like maybe a minute, seriously. Like it's already turning nice golden brown.
And Caryn, I've talked about this before with you, but obviously, again, no oil, right?
No oil.
Right. I mean,
so this is the low fat part. There's no oil, or no fat from the oil.
Right, exactly.
No.
It's crazy how many people think that you gotta have oil to saute whatever, right? And it's just not true. And you did such an amazing job about teaching people that oil-free saute.
Thanks. Okay, so that's well coated, and those spices are toasted.
I could just eat that.
I know, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. All right, so if you want to please put in both cans of tomatoes. Yep. Now those are just 2 14-ounce cans of diced tomatoes.
Yep.
No extra spices, though you certainly could if you wanted to. And that will warm up pretty quickly.
Need to, though. I'm telling you, that curry is like.
I know.
Man.
I know. You almost don't want to fight with the curry, huh?
That's right.
Okay, so then go ahead and put in our 2 cans of chickpeas.
Yep.
Now these are just 2 regular cans of chickpeas that I have drained and rinsed.
Right. Fiber, fiber, fiber.
Fiber, fiber.
Wow.
I know. It's so great. Okay, so this is going to warm up really pretty quickly, and I promised fruit. So what do you think?
Yeah, well, I see some mango here on the table.
Yes. So why don't you put that in there?
Yep.
And this mango, actually, this is from frozen, which is fine, right?
Right.
I am a big fan of the frozen foods. And I've let it defrost, and then I took a potato masher to it.
And just mashed it up.
Yeah, because that'll really help those juices and all those flavors seep in everywhere.
It's interesting. A lot of people are kind of scared of frozen food, right? They think, it's
a packaged good,
and it's not as nutritious. In fact, though, for many foods, the frozen foods are more nutritious than fresh sometimes, right? because they're typically flash frozen right after they're picked or right after they're harvested. Unlike things like broccoli that you buy at the store that might have been sitting around for a while, or cauliflower is another example.
Yeah, right.
Where it starts to lose some of the health benefits from the phytonutrients. So absolutely nothing wrong
I'm a big fan.
with frozen vegetables, especially in the wintertime, right?
Right.
Where it's harder to find fresh fruit, fresh veggies at the farmer's market.
Okay, so this is going to come up to a boil,
Yep.
down to a simmer real quickly.
Yep.
And here, actually, we're already boiling.
Yep, yep.
So you can see just this is, and you come home from work, a long
Right.
day at work, you can whip this thing up so
Right.
quickly. Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, this is great. Now, you know I love my greens.
Yep.
Yes? So another way to get your greens
Right.
into anything almost is
Put
to
it
just
at the end.
add it right there at the end. Now, I'm adding them
that's-
at the end because I do not want to overcook them.
Right,
I
right.
just want them to wilt down so they become very soft. And you just kind of have to play with them, maybe get some
Right.
tongs out or
Right.
whatever.
I mean, it looks like a lot, but here you'll see in a minute, right?
Oh.
Because I always think, oh my God, that's a ton of spinach, or that's a ton of arugula, and then you get done cooking it, and it's like,
where'd it
hey,
go?
where did it all go?
Okay,
But,
so
yeah, no, that looks amazing. It smells amazing. I tell you, I can't wait
it's
to
just
get.
so pretty.
Yeah,
you know?
no, it is.
Yeah, so we're really boiling now. Okay, so we're gonna let this cook, and I mean like maybe 5 minutes.
Yep.
Not really long at all. I'm gonna cover it, let it do its business, and then we are gonna come back and eat.
All right, sounds
right.
good. Yeah, it's
Wow,
amazing.
it smells so good. Okay, and that was really like you can see the greens. They almost look non-existent.
Right, right,
They used to be
right.
this huge pile.
Right. But they
So-
still have that vibrant green color, right? Because
Right.
they just kind of wilted into the dish, right?
That's right. We did not cook them long at all. Okay, so let's get some of
And
this.
you're going to serve this over what? Some brown rice, I see.
We have some brown rice here.
But you could use any grain, right?
Yeah, quinoa, or you know what? Even if you didn't want to cook the greens, you could just have a bowl of greens and then put
Make
this
a
over it.
Yeah, well, that's a great idea.
So we'll do that.
All right.
And this. I know it's. Oh my gosh, this
I'm
smells.
like, all right, ready to go.
So this is hopefully I can give this recipe to Trixie's uncle,
Yeah.
and he can get back into eating fruit again.
Yeah,
and
here we go.
Hold on just a second.
Oh,
For
thank you.
Lime.
A little lime. Brighten that up a little bit. Wow.
Ooh, yeah. All right. So, low fat, high fiber, and fruit.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.